Born into one of Europe's rising royal dynasties, Princess Stephanie of Belgium seemed destined for greatness. But instead of a fairy tale, her life became a royal nightmare. Trapped in a loveless marriage defined by betrayal, illness, and isolation, Stephanie's youth was stolen. By the age of just 22, she had been left infertile, and only 2 years later, a shocking tragedy would forever alter the course of her life. This is the tragic story of Princess Stephanie of Belgium. Stephanie Clotilde Louise Herminie Marie Charlotte was born on May 21, 1864, at the Palace of Laeken, just outside Brussels. She was the daughter of Prince Leopold, heir to the Belgian throne, and the granddaughter of King Leopold I, Belgium's first monarch since independence in 1831. Just a year and a half after her birth, her grandfather died, and her father ascended the throne as King Leopold II. To the world, Leopold II appeared to be a powerful statesman who elevated Belgium's status on the global stage. He filled the country with grand palaces and monumental civic buildings, cultivating the image of a visionary ruler. But behind this glittering facade lay unimaginable darkness. Leopold II ruled the Congo Free State as his personal possession, exploiting its land and people with brutal efficiency. Millions of Congolese were forced into labor on rubber plantations, subjected to violence, mutilation, disease, and famine. The population collapsed under his reign. Much of the Belgian royal family's immense wealth was built on this suffering, on blood money. Stephanie's mother, Queen Marie Henrietta of Austria, came from the powerful House of Habsburg. The marriage between Leopold and Marie Henrietta was entirely political and deeply unhappy. Though they had 4 children, Louise, Leopold, who died young, Stephanie, and Clementine, their domestic life was cold and distant. By the 1870s, Marie Henrietta increasingly lived apart from her husband, leaving Stephanie to grow up in a rigid, emotionally barren court. Tragedy struck early. In January 1869, her only brother and heir to the throne died at just 9 years old. Though she was only 4, the loss devastated her family and accelerated the collapse of her parents' marriage. Then, in 1871, disaster struck again. Europe was ravaged by epidemics, typhus, smallpox, and cholera. Stephanie fell gravely ill with typhus before her 7th birthday. For weeks, she drifted between life and death, unconscious and burning with fever. Against all odds, she survived. By 1875, her strict royal education began. She was trained rigorously, multilingual, disciplined, but never coddled. With her mother often absent and her older sister married, Stephanie frequently became the highest-ranking woman at court while still a child. Then, in the winter of 1878, her fate was sealed. 14-year-old Stephanie was introduced to Crown Prince Rudolf of Austria, the only son of Emperor Franz Joseph and heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Rudolf was 20. The meeting was no coincidence. This was a political arrangement designed to secure the dynasty. After prolonged negotiations, the marriage was agreed upon. On May 10, 1881, just days before her 17th birthday, Stephanie married Rudolf in a magnificent ceremony in Vienna. Behind the splendor, the marriage was doomed. There was no love, only duty. At first, the relationship was polite, even cordial, but Rudolf was emotionally unstable, controlling, and deeply unhappy. Stephanie lived under constant supervision, isolated within palace walls. In September 1883, she gave birth to a daughter, Archduchess Elizabeth Marie Badenbaun. Rudolf had wanted a male heir. His disappointment was barely concealed. She would be Stephanie's only child. By her early 20s, Stephanie was infertile. The cause was devastating. Rudolf was a heavy drinker and serial philanderer who contracted multiple sexually transmitted diseases. Historians widely agree that he passed syphilis and gonorrhea to Stephanie, permanently damaging her reproductive health. Doctors initially blamed peritonitis. Rudolph concealed the truth. By the time Stephanie learned what had happened, it was too late. Humiliated and betrayed, she refused to share her husband's bed. Rudolph spiraled further into excess, returning home at dawn reeking of alcohol and infidelity. By the late 1880s, it was widely known that Stephanie would never bear another child. Then came the catastrophe. In 1888, Rudolph began an affair with Baroness Mary Witzera, just 17 years old. His behavior became increasingly erratic. The couple retreated to Meyerling, a secluded hunting lodge Rudolph had transformed into a private escape. On the morning of January 30th, 1889, the unimaginable happened. Rudolph and Mary Witzera were found dead. After years of speculation, conspiracy theories, and investigations, the truth emerged. Rudolph shot Mary and then himself. At just 24 years old, Stephanie was a widow, childless, discarded, and emotionally shattered. Though Rudolph left her a letter expressing affection, his legacy in her life was destruction. After his death, Stephanie wished to return to Belgium, but her daughter remained an Archduchess of Habsburg, and the imperial court refused to let her leave Vienna. She was unwanted, isolated, blamed. During this lonely period, she found solace with Count Artur Potocki, a Polish nobleman who stood by her, until tragedy struck again. Potocki died of cancer in 1910, leaving Stephanie devastated once more. She traveled extensively, drifting across the Mediterranean in search of escape. Eventually, she found love again with Count Elemer Lonyai, a Hungarian aristocrat. This was no political match, it was genuine affection. Her father disapproved. When Stephanie defied him and married Elemer in 1900, she lost her imperial titles forever. She never reconciled with King Leopold II. When he died in 1909, Stephanie and her sisters discovered they had been largely disinherited, his fortune left instead to his mistress, whom he secretly married days before his death. A bitter legal battle followed. Stephanie survived 2 world wars, political collapse, and personal loss. She spent her final years quietly, writing memoirs and living far from the power that once consumed her. She died on August 23, 1945, at the age of 81. She was buried without her daughter present. Princess Stephanie's life was not a fairy tale. It was a warning, a story of how royal privilege could not protect a woman from betrayal, disease, or political cruelty, and how even those born into crowns can be quietly broken by history.